"There's no space in the limo," my cousin said as they left for Grandma's funeral without me. I sat quietly in an Uber instead. Later, when the will was read, every eye turned toward me, and I didn't say a thing. I just smiled. You know how some people are just background noise in their own lives? That was me. Until one shocking moment, standing alone in front of my grandmother's funeral home, completely erased by my own family, set me on a path to uncover a truth so brutal it would either break me or forge me into something unbreakable. My name is Noah. I'm 27, and for as long as I can remember, I was the quiet observer in my family. Not shy, just there. The one who stayed to help Grandma with dishes while everyone else was already loud and boisterous, halfway through their third glass of wine. The one who never made a fuss, never raised his voice, and consequently, the one everyone forgot to include in group photos. And if they did remember, it was usually followed by a condescending smile or some snarky comment about how low maintenance I was. My cousins, especially Alex and his younger sister Marissa, saw me less as family and more like a stray dog Grandma insisted on feeding. Alex, the golden boy, loud, flashy, always the center of attention. Marissa, his shadow, always laughing when he rolled his eyes at me, always making sure others ignored me at family parties, too. I wasn't outright bullied, no, but I was constantly dismissed, always made to feel like I didn't matter, like I was invisible. The only person who truly made me feel seen, truly mattered to me, was my Grandma Evelyn. She wasn't loud or flashy either. She was gentle, thoughtful, always carrying hard candies in her pockets. She had this incredible knack for making every grandchild feel special. Well, everyone except Alex and Marissa, I guess. They never seemed to notice how Grandma always asked me to help her with her garden, or how she'd save a slice of my favorite peach pie just for me, even if I was late to dinner. We had this quiet bond, built on unspoken understanding. I'd help her set up her iPad, and she'd sit beside me with a cup of tea, smiling like I was the most fascinating person in the world. When I moved out at 19 to start my small graphic design business, she was the only one who took it seriously. Everyone else, even after I landed my first big client, still called it a hobby. But Grandma, she framed one of my posters and hung it right in her hallway. So when she passed away, it wasn't just grief I felt. It was like the ground itself had shifted beneath me. This deep, hollow ache that made everything feel off, like the one person who truly saw me, truly understood me, was gone forever. The funeral was set for a Thursday morning, in the town where Grandma had lived for over 40 years. I took the week off work, booked an Airbnb, and packed my best suit, the same one I'd worn to my first gallery opening, the one Grandma had flown 2 hours to attend, even though she absolutely hated airports. I got there early, as always, expecting the usual family chaos. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. I was standing outside the funeral home when this sleek, black limo pulled up, the kind that just whispers money. I watched as Alex stepped out first, looking like he'd just walked off a boardroom set. Sharp jawline, perfect hair, crisp navy suit. Marissa followed, dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue that, honestly, looked more for show than anything. My aunt, my uncle, even my dad, who only resurfaced for big family events, trailed behind them. I waved. No one waved back. Then I noticed it, one spot left in the limo. Just one. Alex glanced at me, then turned to Marissa and muttered something. She smirked. I took a step forward, a tiny bit of hope sparking. Is there room? Alex didn't even flinch. There's no room in the limo, he said, so casually, already climbing back inside. You should probably just grab an Uber or something. And just like that, the door shut. They drove off without so much as a backward glance. I stood there for a few seconds, my hand still half raised, my brain not quite registering what had just happened. My first instinct was to laugh. I mean, who does that? Who leaves someone standing outside their own grandmother's funeral? But the laughter never came. Instead, I slowly lowered my arm, pulled out my phone, and ordered a ride. The driver arrived in 5 minutes. He didn't say much. I didn't either. I just stared out the window, letting the silence wrap around me like a cold, biting wind. I arrived 20 minutes late. The service had already started. I slipped in quietly through the back, not making a sound. I didn't need to sit in the front row, or even near the family. I just wanted to be there to say goodbye. But even from where I sat, I could see the smug glances my cousins exchanged when they noticed me walking in alone. Marissa actually leaned over and whispered something to Alex that made him smirk. I didn't respond. I didn't even look at them. I just kept my eyes forward, hands folded, jaw tight. I said my silent goodbye. I thanked Grandma for every kind word, every soft hug, every single time she made me feel like I wasn't invisible. And then I left. That evening, I skipped the family reception. No one texted to ask where I was. Not that I expected them to. I ordered takeout back at the Airbnb, watched one of Grandma's favorite movies, The Sound of Music, on my laptop, and stared at the glowing screen long after the credits rolled. I thought about the will, scheduled to be read a few days later at Grandma's attorney's office. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a small keepsake, a letter, maybe nothing at all. Just something to hold on to, a part of her. But what happened at that meeting? It changed absolutely everything. The reading of the will was on Monday morning, 3 days after the funeral. The attorney's office was in this old downtown building, worn red brick, gold-lettered signage that looked like it hadn't changed since the 70s. I got there early, again, and waited on a leather bench, scrolling through old photos of Grandma on my phone. Most were from random Sundays at her house, her holding a tray of lemonade, or laughing at something out of frame. It hit me all over again. She was really gone. Around 10:03, the rest of the family arrived. Late as always. They came in loud, laughing, chatting like they were meeting for brunch instead of their mothers while reading. Alex strolled in first, wearing aviator sunglasses indoors, talking on his phone about some crazy deal at work. Marissa trailed behind, fiddling with her nails. My aunt and uncle looked as smug and relaxed as ever. My dad was there too, nodding politely to everyone, though I could tell he felt just as out of place as I did. When they saw me, the talking dulled for a second. Just a second. Then it picked up again, as if I were just another piece of old furniture in the room. Didn't know you were invited, Marissa muttered as she passed me, not even bothering to make eye contact. I didn't answer. I just gave a small nod, like I hadn't heard her, and went back to my phone. But my heart was pounding in my chest. Mr. Langley, the attorney, opened the door and motioned us in. The room was small, lined with dusty law books. A long wooden table sat in the center with folders neatly stacked, a pitcher of water, and a few glasses. We all took our seats, me at the far end, near the window. Mr. Langley was an older gentleman, with a slow, deliberate way of speaking. Thank you all for coming. Evelyn's final wishes were very specific, and I intend to honor them exactly as written. He opened a manila folder and began reading. The first part was standard. A few donations to charities she'd supported, her church, a small scholarship fund. Then it turned personal. To my daughter, Helen, Mr. Langley read, referring to my aunt. I leave my collection of antique teacups and the china cabinet they're housed in. Helen looked visibly disappointed. Just the teacups? She whispered. To my son, George, my dad. I leave the bronze clock from the fireplace mantel and my collection of first edition mystery novels. Dad blinked, genuinely surprised. Wow, she knew I loved those. To my grandson, Alexander, Mr. Langley continued. I leave the contents of the wine cellar and my gardening tools. Alex sat back with a faint chuckle. The wine cellar? Nice. Grandma always had good taste. To my granddaughter, Marissa, I leave my jewelry box and the costume jewelry inside. Marissa blinked. Wait, just costume jewelry? That's got to be a mistake. Mr. Langley didn't respond. He just turned the page. Then he looked up, directly at me. For the first time, the room went absolutely silent. And to my grandson, Noah, he paused. I leave the house, all its contents, the remaining savings in my personal account, and full ownership of my stake in the floral business I helped co-found in 1978. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex's jaw dropped. Marissa audibly gasped. My aunt looked like someone had slapped her across the face. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My ears were ringing. What? Alex muttered. That can't be right. Mr. Langley adjusted his glasses. It is. I was present when she wrote it, and a witness as she signed it. Marissa's voice shot up an octave. You're telling me he gets the house? He gets the savings? What about the antiques, the stocks, the actual jewelry? I assure you, Mr. Langley said calmly. This was all intentional. Evelyn was very clear. I could feel the heat of their eyes on me. The tension in the room coiled like a spring. But why him? my aunt snapped, finally breaking the stunned silence. He barely came to family events. He was always off in his little bubble. He's not even close with the rest of us. Mr. Langley glanced at me, then back at the paper. There's a note she asked me to read aloud. Would you all like to hear it? Everyone fell silent again. No one wanted to say yes, but they didn't say no either. Mr. Langley cleared his throat and read. To those who are confused by my choices, the people who showed me love quietly, without fanfare, are the ones who meant the most. This isn't about duty. This is about presence, about kindness, about loyalty that asks for nothing in return. I don't owe anyone an explanation, but I've given one anyway. That last line landed like a physical punch. My aunt's face turned a deep shade of red. Alex just shook his head in disbelief, like it couldn't possibly be true. Marissa mumbled something under her breath that I couldn't quite catch. I stayed silent. No gloating, no smug look. I just sat there, staring out the window. It should have ended there, right? A moment of comeuppance. But of course it didn't. Because some people, when they lose control, they'll scramble to get it back, no matter the cost. Over the next few days, their masks started slipping, big time. First, the text from Marissa. Hey, so obviously things were a bit tense at the will reading. Just wanted to say no hard feelings. Smiling face with smiling eyes, if you ever want to do brunch, I'm free this week. Then my aunt. We should talk about the house. You're young. You probably don't want to be burdened with all the maintenance. Maybe we could help take it off your hands. Even Alex tried. Hey man, no idea why Grandma did that, but it's cool. If you're thinking of selling, let me know. I've got some connections. I didn't respond to any of them, but they didn't take silence as an answer. That's when the manipulation started. They came to the house uninvited, under the guise of helping clean up. Marissa claimed she was there to organize Grandma's jewelry, even though most of it was gone. Alex walked into the wine cellar like it belonged to him. My aunt started boxing up furniture without asking me a thing. When I told them they needed to stop, politely, at first, they acted confused, hurt, like I was the one being unreasonable. I just thought you wouldn't mind, my aunt said, arms crossed. It's not like you were ever close to the family, Alex added. You really going to keep all this stuff for yourself? Doesn't feel very Grandma Evelyn, if you ask me. And for the first time in my life, I looked him square in the eyes and didn't look away. I could feel something shifting inside me, something slow, heavy. Not anger, not yet. Something colder. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. But I did start locking the doors. What they didn't realize was that Grandma left me more than just her house. She left me something they didn't even know existed. And once I understood what it was, a plan started forming. Quietly, just like everything else I'd ever done. And when I was ready, they were going to feel everything they'd made me swallow for the last 20 years. The next few weeks were tense, but manageable, until the betrayal hit me square in the chest like a brick I never saw coming. I kept my distance from them, like always. After the will reading, I'd made it clear without saying a word that the house, the assets, everything Grandma left me, wasn't up for discussion. I didn't flaunt anything. I didn't change the locks with a flourish or parade around like I'd won some prize. I just quietly lived in the house, tended to Grandma's plants, updated a few things in the living room, and worked remotely from her sunroom, which overlooked the garden I used to help her with as a kid. But behind my back, the whispering had started. It began subtly. I got a letter from the Homeowners Association, some vague complaint about unauthorized renovations. Then my electricity mysteriously got cut off for a day due to a change in billing info. When I called the utility company, they said someone claiming to be the new owner had called in and switched accounts. I had to send in proof that I was the legal owner. They apologized, reinstated my account, and that was that. Or so I thought. Then came the real gut punch. One afternoon, I was working on a branding mock-up for a client when I got a call from the florist company Grandma had co-owned for decades. Her pride and joy. The company that still bore her name on the sign, Evelyn and Bloom. She'd left me her stake in the business, something I hadn't even touched yet since I was still processing everything else, but I was planning to soon. Grandma had always wanted me to use my design skills to help modernize their branding and digital presence, and I was finally getting ready to step in. Hi, this is Claire, said the voice on the other end. She was the shop's manager. I just wanted to double-check something. We got a call from Helen today, your aunt, and she said you decided to give up your shares in the business and pass them back to the family for safekeeping. Said she'd be signing the paperwork soon. I froze. What? She said it was your decision, Claire repeated, sounding hesitant. She showed us a scanned email from your address. It looked a little odd, honestly. Didn't really sound like you. So I figured I'd just confirm directly. I immediately opened my email. There it was. A sent message, dated 2 days ago, supposedly from me, to whom it may concern. It read, I, Noah Morgan, hereby relinquish all shares and rights to the Evelyn and Bloom floral business effective immediately. My Aunt Helen will be acting on my behalf regarding all future matters. Please comply with her instructions as needed. Sincerely, Noah. Except I didn't write that. I never sent that email. My hands started to tremble. The name on the sent from field looked right, but something about the formatting was off. A closer look revealed it wasn't even my email address, just one that looked similar with an extra period and a fake domain. Someone had spoofed my identity. They're trying to steal the business. I whispered, barely believing the words coming out of my own mouth. Claire's voice softened. I thought it didn't seem like you. Thank you for calling me, I said. Please don't accept anything from her. I'm going to get this straightened out. I hung up and sat in complete silence for a long, long time. That was it. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. This wasn't about a limo or being left out of group chats or smirks behind my back. This was theft. It was identity fraud. It was crossing a line so blatant, so vicious, that it made my stomach turn. My own family had tried to forge my consent to steal what Grandma had trusted me with. Something she built from the ground up. Something she passed on with intention. And the worst part? They probably didn't think I'd fight back. They'd seen me as silent for so long. The kid in the corner, the easy target, the one they could walk over like a doormat and expect a polite nod in return. But that version of me, he died the day they shut that limo door in my face. I forwarded the fake email to a lawyer the next morning. I'd hired one quietly right after the will reading, just in case. Mr. Gordon was sharp, no nonsense, and extremely efficient. He didn't blink when I explained what happened. This is forgery and attempted fraud, he said matter-of-factly. You have full rights over that stake, and this email stunt is a clear violation. What do? We file a cease and desist, he explained. And if they push harder, we escalate. But first, I want you to gather anything else that might help us. Any signs that they've tried to undermine your inheritance, keep a record. We'll be ready. And just like that, a fire started burning in me. Not rage, not vengeance. Clarity. They had tried to erase me from Grandma's legacy. They had underestimated the quiet one. And now I was going to make sure that every fake smile, every manipulative scheme, every behind-the-back betrayal would come to light. Not with shouting, not with drama, with precision, with undeniable proof. And with a plan so clean, they wouldn't even see it coming until the very end. Because Grandma didn't raise a fool. She raised a quiet storm, and the storm was just beginning. After that call with the florist and the meeting with my lawyer, I thought I was prepared for anything else they might throw at me. But when people are desperate, when they feel power slipping from their hands, they don't get smarter. They get reckless. The first real blow came the next weekend. It was early Saturday morning, and I was out on the back porch with a mug of coffee, watching the dew roll off the garden leaves. Grandma's garden. It was still full of late blooms, and I'd been keeping it just like she liked it, colorful, soft, quiet. It was the only place that still felt like her. Then my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I normally let those go to voicemail, but something in me said to pick it up. A woman's voice, shaky. Is this Noah Morgan? Yes. Who's calling? This is Janet from First National Bank. I'm calling to confirm some account activity that flagged our system. We've had multiple attempts to withdraw large sums from an account under your name. We've frozen the account for your protection, but we'll need to verify your identity in person. I blinked, sitting up straight. Wait, my savings account. Yes, sir. 2 withdrawal attempts within the last 48 hours. One was flagged as unusual. The other nearly went through, but was stopped due to a name mismatch on the signature. My stomach dropped. I barely touched that account. It was Grandma's final savings, the one she left me in the will. I hadn't even used it yet. Not a single cent. I haven't authorized any withdrawals, I said slowly. Not one. She gave me a location, one of the local branches. And the name on the attempted withdrawal? Helen Morgan. My aunt. My own flesh and blood had not only tried to steal my business share behind my back. Now she was literally trying to drain Grandma's savings. The money she left for me. Not for a joint account. Not for the family. For me. I didn't say a word after the call. I didn't throw my mug or scream into a pillow. I just sat there for a long, long time, until the coffee went cold in my hand and the sun moved higher in the sky. That was the lowest I'd felt in years. Not because of the money, but because I realized, fully realized, that these people, the ones who called themselves family, saw me as nothing more than a resource to be siphoned off until I was dry. And once they were done, they'd move on. Probably back to pretending I didn't exist. I wasn't even a person to them, just a will-reading mistake they wanted to correct. I couldn't even bring myself to tell my dad. He hadn't spoken up during the will reading. He hadn't defended me when they barged into Grandma's house or started boxing up furniture. Maybe he didn't know how. Or maybe he didn't want to rock the boat. But either way, I didn't have him in my corner. Not really. For a couple of days, I drifted. I didn't leave the house much. I barely ate. I'd sit in Grandma's reading nook at night with her old shawl still draped over the chair, letting the silence settle over me like dust. Everything felt heavy. Wrong. But in that silence, something started forming. Not anger. Resolve. I stopped looking at them as people I needed approval from. I stopped trying to protect their feelings. That phase was completely over. I had always believed in taking the high road. But the high road doesn't mean standing still while others drag your name through the mud and loot your legacy. I started documenting everything. Emails, voicemails, the forged bank activity, photos of the cleaning sessions they conducted in the house without my permission. I scanned old texts from Marissa, especially the ones where she hinted I was too fragile to handle the pressure of inheritance. I even found an old voicemail from Alex, back when Grandma was in hospice, laughing about how she probably wouldn't even remember where her will was. I created a folder called Evidence on my desktop. Every night, I added to it. Then I started meeting with Mr. Gordon more frequently. We drafted a cease and desist letter with real teeth. We reviewed the bank's internal logs and flagged the forged withdrawal attempts as potential fraud. I filed a report with the police, quietly. Helen wouldn't be arrested overnight, but the record would exist. A paper trail, one she wouldn't see until it was too late. I also reached out to Claire again at the florist shop and asked for a full record of communications from anyone claiming to be representing me. She sent over a folder full of suspicious emails from Helen, from a burner account pretending to be me. Even one from Marissa asking to make updates to the payroll structure. They'd been planning something bigger than I realized. Not just grabbing the house or the money. They were trying to erase me entirely and reinstall themselves as the rightful heirs to everything Grandma had left. I still hadn't told them I knew. I still smiled in the family group chat, which suddenly added me again when Helen posted a photo of some cousin's baby. I still answered texts from Marissa with polite, short replies. I let them believe they were getting away with it because if they thought I was clueless, they wouldn't see what was coming. And that was the only thing keeping me afloat through that pit of silence, isolation, and slow-brewing betrayal. The knowledge that I wasn't powerless. The knowledge that Grandma had left me more than just stuff. She'd left me trust. And I was finally about to show them what happens when the quiet one stops staying quiet. Something shifted the moment I let go of the idea that I owed them kindness. I wasn't raised to be spiteful. Grandma had always said, "Don't fight fire with fire. Build something so bright they can't ignore it." I used to think that meant staying small and polite. But now I understood what she really meant. Power doesn't come from pleasing people. It comes from owning who you are without apology. So that's what I did. The first step, the house. I made it my own. Not in a loud, flashy way. No marble countertops or massive renovations. Just quiet, deliberate upgrades. I took down the old wallpaper in the foyer and replaced it with a deep blue shade that made the space feel warmer. I fixed the loose floorboards myself. Replaced Grandma's flickering porch light with a soft amber lantern she would have loved. Every evening, I lit it as the sun set, like a quiet signal to myself that I belonged here now. This wasn't just a house I inherited. It was home. Then came the business. Claire and I met over coffee. She'd been running the day-to-day of Evelyn and Bloom since before Grandma got sick. And she was good. Really good. Smart. Detail-oriented. No patience for drama. She'd been skeptical when Grandma first said I'd be taking over her share. But after what Helen pulled, Claire was firmly in my corner. "I want to update the brand," I told her during that first meeting. "Website, social, logo, everything. Same heart, new face. She grinned. You're the designer, right? Let's do it. Over the next month, I poured myself into it. I rebranded Evelyn and Bloom with a soft, modern palette. Hand drew a new logo based on one of Grandma's favorite flowers and built an entirely new website with online ordering, same-day delivery options, and a weekly blog showcasing bouquet styles. Claire handled logistics. I handled visuals. Sales doubled in 6 weeks. We started getting orders from out of state. A local wedding planner featured us in a spread. A home decor Instagram account shared our bouquets in a post that went viral. I kept it quiet. No big announcements to the family. No smug updates. I just did the work. And as my confidence grew, so did my distance from them. I didn't go to the next family barbecue. I sent a polite text. Hope it goes well. I'm buried in a design deadline. When my aunt posted a photo of a new car with a caption about spoiling yourself when you've earned it, I didn't bite. I already knew she was panicking. Her fraud case was moving slowly, but steadily. The cease and desist we'd sent had shut her out of the business completely, and the bank was still investigating the forged withdrawal attempts. I kept it all quiet, legal, and airtight. The more silent I stayed, the more they unraveled. I heard through the grapevine, mostly Claire and a few mutuals, that Marissa was fuming about being cut off from Grandma's jewelry. She'd apparently tried to sell a few costume pieces she did get, only to be told at a pawn shop they were worthless. Alex, meanwhile, had tried to play nice again, sending texts like, "You always were the creative one, man. Knew you'd do well." I didn't respond. Let them feel the silence. I started walking differently, talking differently. Not in some exaggerated way, just grounded. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. I wasn't waiting for anyone to see me. I saw myself. I started booking higher-end clients again for my own design work. With the florist business doing well, I didn't need the extra money, but it felt good to build something again, to feel sharp, capable. I launched a small online store selling botanical-themed art prints. They sold out in a week. I donated a portion of the profits to Grandma's old church, quietly, under her name. The next time I visited the cemetery, I brought a fresh arrangement of lilies, her favorite, and placed them gently by her stone. I sat on the bench nearby and told her everything. About the new brand, about the growth, about how Claire was doing, about the porch light and the garden, and the way the morning sun hit the kitchen window. "Now I'm okay," I said softly, brushing some dust off her name. "You didn't make a mistake." And I knew deep down she already knew that. By the end of that month, Mr. Gordon had compiled enough evidence to push forward on multiple fronts. He advised patience. The legal process moved slow but steady, and I was fine with that because I wasn't in a rush. I had something they didn't. Peace. They had houses filled with tension, social media filled with fake smiles, credit cards filled with purchases they couldn't afford, trying to prove something to people who didn't care. I had a home. I had a business. I had me. And quietly, steadily, I was building the kind of life they could never take away because it wasn't handed to me by status or noise. It was earned in silence. But power like that, it doesn't stay invisible forever. Sooner or later, they were going to find out just how far I'd come. And when they did, well, they wouldn't be the ones holding the cards anymore. It happened on a Tuesday. Claire and I were finalizing the quarterly inventory for Evelyn and Bloom, sitting in the office above the shop. Sunlight poured through the old, flower-dusted window panes. The air tinged with lavender and eucalyptus. Business had been steady, better than steady. And the holiday season was coming up. We were planning a full line of gift boxes, limited edition arrangements, maybe even a pop-up stall at the winter market. "I found something you might want to see," Claire said, closing her laptop with a click. She reached for an envelope on the corner of her desk. "It's from a real estate agent. Came in the mail, addressed to the shop, not you directly. Strange thing is, it's about your house." I raised a brow. What kind of real estate agent? The kind who doesn't check ownership records before making bold offers. I opened the envelope and scanned the letter inside. It was from a company called Greenfield Acquisitions. Sleek branding, professional language. And right in the second paragraph, it said, "As discussed with Helen Morgan, we understand the property at 14 Rosewood Lane is part of a family estate currently being evaluated for sale." I stopped reading. Helen. Again. She was trying to sell my house behind my back. I clenched my jaw. She hadn't just tried to steal Grandma's money. She hadn't just tried to forge away my business shares. She was actively shopping the house around to developers, assuming I wouldn't catch it, or worse, that she could still convince someone that she had control over Grandma's estate. I looked up at Claire. She's still pretending it's hers. Claire nodded, but she slipped. These letters, paper trails, this company will have logs, emails, meeting notes. And just like that, a door cracked open in my mind, because I knew something Helen didn't. A few weeks earlier, Mr. Gordon had mentioned that the fraud and forgery cases we were building, the email scam, the bank withdrawals, the fake business documents, were solid, but slow. The legal system crawled. But if we found intent, if we could prove premeditated action with financial incentive, that changed everything. This might be what we needed, I murmured, reading over the letter again. Proof she's actively trying to profit off my inheritance while under investigation. I scanned the signature, a name, Thomas Vicks, Senior Acquisition Agent. Then I noticed a date and time for a scheduled property evaluation walkthrough, written in small print at the bottom, Friday, 11 a.m. At my house. I stared at the letter. She'd actually scheduled the walkthrough without asking, without checking, without permission. She was sending a developer to my front door to walk through my home like it was a product on a shelf. That was the final piece. I wasn't just going to stop her. I was going to use her own greed to expose everything. By Friday morning, I had everything set. I called Mr. Gordon and filled him in. He agreed. This was the moment to act. He drafted a legal notice confirming my sole ownership of the property and advising any third party they were being misled if they entered under false pretenses. I printed it and placed a copy on the front door, just in case. But I didn't cancel the walkthrough. I wanted them to show up. Let them see who actually lived there. Let them realize they'd been dealing with a liar. At 10:55, I brewed a fresh pot of coffee and set out a plate of store-bought pastries. Grandma always said, if you're going to make a point, be polite. It unsettles people more. At 11:02, a black BMW pulled into the driveway. Out stepped a sharply dressed man in a tailored gray coat, a leather folder under one arm. He looked around, a little confused, then knocked on the door. I opened it with a smile. Mr. Vicks, I presume? He blinked. Oh yes. Is Helen? No Helen today, I said, motioning for him to step inside. You're speaking with the owner, Noah Morgan. He paused. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. I apologize. I was told, I know what you were told, I said calmly, offering him coffee. But it was a lie. This house was legally passed to me. Helen has no authority over it. And if you check your records, you'll notice she's not even on the title. He didn't take the coffee, just stood there, clearly uncomfortable. That's not great news for your company, I imagine, I added, especially if you've already started negotiating. He fumbled to open his folder, probably to check the documents or salvage some part of the meeting. That's when I handed him my folder, the one Mr. Gordon prepared, complete with notarized proof of inheritance, the cease and desist order filed against Helen, and the pending fraud reports. I'd suggest speaking with your legal department, I said, my tone still polite. You might want to reconsider doing business with someone currently under investigation for attempted estate fraud. He didn't stay long after that. I watched from the window as he made a hurried call the moment he reached his car, probably to Helen. Good. Let her panic. That evening, I went back through the logs of everything she'd done since Grandma passed. The visits, the messages, the sneaky paperwork. It was all in the folder now, all time-stamped. But now I had external proof. Companies she'd lied to, people she'd misled, actions she couldn't walk back. And I wasn't stopping there, because I'd also learned something else. Something she definitely didn't know. Grandma had been sitting on undeveloped land, a little parcel behind the house, technically part of the same property, almost useless for decades. But now, the city was expanding. Developers were offering serious money for nearby lots. I found a note from Grandma tucked in one of her gardening journals. This land will be valuable someday. If you get it, don't sell it fast. Wait until they come to you. They were already starting to. 3 different offers had come through since I'd inherited the house, and I was going to wait. I wasn't just sitting on a nice home and a thriving business. I was sitting on leverage. And if Helen and the rest of them wanted to keep digging their hole deeper, I'd let them. Because now I had everything I needed. The documents, the witnesses, the motive, and the timing. They thought they were playing chess, but I was playing checkmate in slow motion. And the next move was mine. The call came a week later. Mr. Morgan. It was Mr. Gordon, my attorney. We've got what we need. If you're ready to move forward, I'd say now's the time. I was ready. For months, I'd endured the manipulation, the faked emails, the stolen bank info, the attempted hijacking of Grandma's business, the effort to sell my home, my inheritance, right out from under me. And I had said nothing. I'd smiled, nodded, played the quiet one. But I wasn't quiet anymore. It began with a single letter, sent by certified mail to Helen's home address. Marissa got one, too. So did Alex. Inside was a formal legal notice outlining their actions: fraud, identity misrepresentation, attempted theft, harassment, and unauthorized interference with an estate. All backed by documentation. All signed and notarized by Gordon's firm. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. One last chance to walk away before things got ugly. They didn't walk away. Instead, Helen called me. I let it ring twice, then picked up. "Noah," she started, her voice sharp and breathless. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I didn't say anything at first. Just let the silence do the talking. "Are you seriously going through with this?" she snapped. "You're going to ruin our entire family over some misunderstanding. Is that what you call it now?" I asked quietly. "Trying to forge my name, steal from my accounts, lie to real estate developers, and replace my email identity? All a misunderstanding. I was trying to protect the estate. That house, Grandma's things, they weren't meant for you. You were barely around." I almost laughed. The irony. She seemed to think otherwise. My voice changed then, from anger to quiet resolve. Her voice changed too, from anger to desperation. "Look, if you go through with this, you're going to drag the family through court. You think you're ready for that? All that attention? You're not built for this." And maybe she was right. The old me wasn't. But the me she created with her cruelty? He was built exactly for this. "I don't need to drag anything," I said calmly. "All I have to do is let the truth come out. The rest will happen on its own." Then I hung up. The next day, Mr. Gordon filed the first formal complaint: fraud and attempted theft related to the forged business emails. He'd secured statements from Claire, dated screenshots, and metadata from the spoofed messages. The Florist Financial team submitted a letter confirming the attempted payroll manipulation. Within 2 days, Helen's access to any business-related accounts was locked down permanently. Her email address was blacklisted. A notice was sent to every supplier, vendor, and partner she had previously reached out to under false pretenses. Professionally, of course, with a neutral tone. But it was clear she was done. Next came the banking fraud. The forged withdrawal attempts weren't just unethical. They were illegal. And thanks to the flagged transactions and the bank's internal records, we had timestamps, voice logs, and identity mismatches all tied directly to her. The police had already filed an incident report weeks ago. Now, they had what they needed to move forward. A detective contacted me for a follow-up. "Do you want to press charges?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. Then I remembered all the nights I sat on the porch alone. The limo driving away without me. The silence in the group chats. The smirks. The fake brunch invites. The way they tried to erase me from Grandma's legacy like I was a stain they needed to scrub off. "Yes," I said. "I want to press charges." The house was next. The real estate company, Greenfield Acquisitions, was more than willing to cooperate once they realized they'd been misled. Mr. Vicks, the man who visited my home, submitted a formal affidavit describing the interaction and Helen's false claims. Turns out she'd already provided them with a fake signed letter of intent to sell. They were furious. Their lawyers contacted Gordon and offered full documentation in exchange for not pursuing legal recourse against them for negligence. We agreed. That gave us the smoking gun: intent to sell property she did not own, using forged documentation. And finally, the public fallout. I didn't mean to make it public. I never wanted that. But news like this doesn't stay quiet in small towns. When the fraud charges were filed and the shop started getting questions from customers, Claire made the call. "We should say something," she said. "Not the dirty details, just enough to clarify who's running things now." So, I wrote a statement. It was brief. Following an internal audit and review of recent events, Evelyn and Bloom is now fully under the direction of Noah Morgan, grandson of Evelyn herself. All previous management outside this role has been removed due to unauthorized actions. We appreciate your continued support and look forward to serving the community with the same heart Grandma Evelyn always brought to her work. It was shared on our website and quietly posted on social media. Marissa commented within 2 hours, "Wow, petty much." I didn't respond, but our customer count jumped by 15% that weekend. Alex, meanwhile, tried to be clever. He posted a photo of a new wine bottle with the caption, "Funny how some people think silence equals weakness." I blocked him. Let him scream into the void. The last thing I did, the cherry on top, was visit the county office and finalize the parcel registration on the land behind Grandma's house. Remember the one she said to wait on? It had recently been rezoned for mixed-use development. I met with a small architectural firm that offered to lease it, not buy it, and build a greenhouse cafe there. They offered a generous long-term contract with profit sharing. Grandma would have loved it. I signed the deal. Then I took the first check they issued and walked it straight to the bank. Not $1 came from their world. Everything I had, everything I was building, it came from me and from the one person who truly believed in me from the start. They didn't see it coming because they never saw me at all. And now? They couldn't look away. The fallout wasn't loud. There were no courtroom showdowns or teary-eyed apologies. It was quieter than that, more surgical. The way truth often is, when it's armed with patience, documentation, and the right attorney. The fraud charges against Helen were officially filed 2 weeks after the final affidavit came in from Greenfield Acquisitions. Attempted financial fraud, forgery, and impersonation. Nothing flashy enough for the evening news, but enough to show up on a background check. Enough to lose her the part-time bookkeeping job she'd clung to. Enough to freeze her credit temporarily and disqualify her from applying for a business license again. She tried to downplay it. Of course, claimed it was a misunderstanding, a technical error. But when friends started asking why she hadn't shown up at her volunteer committee or why she wasn't involved in church fundraisers anymore, the cracks showed. People talk in small towns, and they remember. Marissa fared no better. She was working with a boutique marketing firm in the city, a job she bragged about at every family gathering. Turned out they weren't thrilled to discover her name tied to an ongoing fraud investigation. Even if she wasn't officially charged, her connection to the forged business emails and attempted payroll tampering was enough to get her let go quietly. She posted vague Instagram stories about haters and betrayal, but her polished influencer smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. As for Alex, he tried to keep his hands clean throughout, pretending none of it involved him. But I wasn't interested in punishing him. Life had its own way of handling people like him. He over-leveraged his lifestyle. Fancy condo, leased car, always chasing something shinier. When word got around about the legal drama involving his family, a few of his high-net clients pulled their investments. Quiet exits, no drama. Just fewer phone calls, fewer meetings, fewer invitations. He messaged me once more. Guess you got what you wanted. Hope it was worth blowing everything up. I left it on read. Because the truth was, I didn't blow anything up. I just stopped fixing what they kept breaking. Grandma's house was peaceful now. I kept the garden alive. Planted a new section with the first check from the cafe land deal, lavender and honeysuckle. The porch light still clicked on every evening. The smell of fresh flowers still drifted through the hallways. The flower shop flourished. Claire got a well-deserved raise. We hired 2 more part-time employees to help with the holiday rush. We hosted our first community workshop, wreath making inside, and people lined up outside. Someone brought a photo of Grandma, printed out from an old newspaper article. They placed it on the counter with a small candle. She'd be proud, Claire said, watching the flame flicker. I nodded, feeling the weight of that truth settle in my chest. Grandma didn't just leave me things. She left me faith in myself, and no one could steal that. Weeks later, I got a formal letter from the bank. The fraud case was closed, and Helen's name was officially flagged across multiple institutions. They enclosed a copy of the report for my records. A neat file of printed lies turned into truth. I placed it in a drawer, locked it, and then I did something simple. I went to the closet, pulled out the suit I wore to Grandma's funeral, the one I'd worn alone after being left behind by a limo filled with people who now couldn't look me in the eye. And I took it to the tailor. Got it properly fitted, cleaned, pressed. Because that chapter was over. And the next time they saw me, it would be on my terms, at my pace, in my name. They thought cutting me out of a limo would be the end of me. But it was the beginning. And when the will was read, and they all turned to me in stunned silence, waiting for a reaction, I didn't say a word. I just smiled.